Welcome back everyone to Venlo Zoo, our modern city zoo approach in a European city. In the last episode we finished actually our desert house with a lot of small details in a very hot and deserty environment within our big beautiful modern house. Today's episode though will be a bit different because we are yet again repurposing some habitats. So meet the good old polar bear habitat, as you can see over here with the murky water in already pretty much went down, and we can also transition over to the old tiger habitat, which you can just see in front of you right now, also empty, and just behind that there is our very old sea lion pond. All of these three things will be took together or will be taken into a brand new one, which is going to be a Sumatran tiger habitat. More about that I'm going to guide you through now. Alright, so first things first, remember if you need anything, you can get it via my instant gaming link in the description. If there's any game or whatever you need, just check it out. But now let's talk about the build. You've already seen a little bit of the beginning of these old habitats, and this time around obviously I needed to first of all build these old habitats. So you will see that a couple of things are a little bit weathered already, so not super modern or not super new, and then later on I'm gonna change them up yet again, so building basically for the sake of the story, which I think is very nice to do. I kind of like this, you know, because in my mind I first of all had to lay out how the polar bear habitat, for example, was like, and how the tiger habitat was like, and how they work together. So you will see that there is like even a backstage access in the middle that I kept in as like a separation. So even if we need to separate some tigers in here, we can do this, and basically what we utilize for that is the old path that was used as the backstage pathing beforehand, and we will also see a little bit of a path that was used as a guest viewing opportunity for the tigers. So that's going to be a little bit of a nice element hopefully throughout this video, which will kind of be a reminder of where things have been. So you can see also me putting some of these rocks to the ground. They are now green, and they used to be in the water obviously because this has been a huge polar bear tank. So all the rocks you can see will later on be part of the habitat, as you may have seen from the thumbnail, but they will not be, or they weren't the same when there was still a polar bear roaming over here. So just also using that as an opportunity to speak about the polar bear a bit more in detail before we get to the other parts. By the way, this building over here is the only new building I'm planning out right away because I needed to. This is going to house our tigers, and this is something that wouldn't have been there, or at least it would have been different because it used to be where the indoor section of the polar bear was, and the polar bear indoor section has basically been taken apart simply because, you know, housing a polar bear in these type of city zoos is not really good anymore. In general, holding a polar bear in your zoos anyways isn't a good idea, and this is where things are going to become a little bit more difficult for me to talk about. So I wanted to use this video to address these topics for the game and for the animals in zoos just in general. So we can all agree pretty simply that this is a very good example of how things should not be. So the polar bear habitat is way too small, the good old tiger cage is a ridiculous joke, and then even the sea lion habitat is way too small. And even nowadays, you know, the most of the sea lion habitats I know are still so small that I'm really like, yeah, they definitely need better treatment soon. Like, I know a couple of zoos that have a very nice sea lion habitat by now, but I unfortunately know a lot who still have a very small one. So I'm very happy that most of the animals, the other ones like tigers and lions and also polar bears, have received already a big upgrade, or at least a new regulation that they cannot be kept without a certain space available. Now that said, I want to also speak about the fact that this is where the problem comes into the roster of Planet Zoo for me. Like, from a real world perspective, I kind of get it, you know. This is, by the way, the old guest viewing path that we will still have in as a reminder. I still have an issue with that in the real world we can argue that it's better to focus on these animals as well. But in the game, all animals should be treated equally. They're digital animals, and just in general, every single animal or living being on the planet should be treated in the same way. And this is where, like, the polar bear gate back in the day was a bit of an odd decision. I do understand that they wanted to do this to raise concern, where, you know, for those of you who don't know, when the polar bear was added to the game, it had a ridiculous requirement of square meters that it needed to be happy, and you ended up putting your half of your zoo out there just for the polar bear, which, you know, from a demand perspective is nice, but it just puts on a super odd imbalance in comparison to all the other animals. Because if you do that, you would also do the same for elephants. You would have changed or needed to change the elephant requirement as well, because elephants are huge animals that need a huge space, and in the game they do not. At least not in relation to the polar bear. So at the end they went in and scaled down the requirements for the polar bear, which are still pretty significant, but they're not as dramatic anymore as they were at the beginning. So that brings me to the next thing. They do not have any bigger whales or sharks or any aquatic animals in here, and mostly what they did is give reasons that these animals do not belong in a zoo because of, you know, space and blah blah blah, which, to be honest, at this point you're just making up reasons because it's a game, you know what I mean? So we can talk about this, and this is why I took this video specifically. You can do exactly this. You can take those animals and their situation and use this to educate and to turn that into something new. Because this is also the other thing I need to talk about is it a bad thing to have animals in a zoo first place? Yes, it is. Now, the problem is we already made this mistake as humanity hundreds of years ago. So we do have them in there, but we have a second issue, and this is we kill animals in the wild. So at this point, and as ridiculous as it is, our captive animals become the last chance to secure our non-captive animals or species, because some animal specimens or species are more secure in a zoo than they are in the wild. Now, if they would have been in a zoo, for example, like the southern rhino, more in a zoo, but, you know, people have stopped doing that, you know, because of obvious reasons. But if they would have been in there, they wouldn't have gone extinct. So it's an odd one, okay? So zoos in the first place as an idea 200-300 years ago are a very bad idea, and there's no denial of that. But the modern approach on zoos is also sometimes very helpful. And for example, if you can house tigers like that and help, you know, keeping the species alive in a way, and I'm not talking about reasons that are natural. You know, some species have gone extinct on a natural basis just because their time has come in a way because our planet decided to. I'm speaking about the animals that lose their environment, their natural habitats, because of our human greed and grief and whatnot. So this is why I still have a bit of a better and more positive connection to zoos. And this is exactly what I wanted to translate with this habitat. So I took 3 habitats that are absolutely out of place and wouldn't be done anymore, and I turned them into one modern, huge Sumatran tiger habitat to give this very unique and very threatened species a chance to thrive in this zoo environment. And I spend a lot of time making sure that their environment is nice. You've got a lot of nice viewing spots and good viewing angles, and trying to still incorporate a bit of the old feeling of what used to be the sea lion habitat and the polar bear one. Even like little things like this, you know. I kept the drainage in here. And then I used some plants to make it appear like as if everything is starting to grow out of these, you know, just because they are not maintained anymore. There's like no real stuff in, and just making sure it looks a little bit more nice with stuff growing out of there. I feel like this is a nice little touch, you know, because it's not, I don't really want to give like an actual time frame for how long this has been changed or when they stopped having polar bears. I mean, if you look at the zoo in Wuppertal in Germany, for example, they just stopped having a polar bear last year. So there are still modern zoos that, you know, have a very good focus on conservation already, but due to several reasons, sometimes they have to house the animals way longer than they usually would like to, or should do, I should say. So yeah, this is, by the way, the middle path I was talking about. This is where the you know, the historic backstage area used to be, and I just kept it the way, very simple, just making sure that there is this central separation of 2 habitats, and obviously made this a bit more nicer with some sliding gates now that can be shut if needed and required, and I put some more security guards on top of it so that the tigers cannot just simply jump on top of it. Because also what you can do with this, you can have your staff members move through the habitat. So it's not only a way to separate the animals from each other, it's also a way to move through the habitat and clean the habitat, for example. So you can just open one side or the other, and via this middle ground you can easily go from A to B. Also having a staff member over here just for testing reasons. And I feel like this was a good idea, also having additional doors, so in case you just walk through and there is a malfunction or something, you need some additional security for your staff members, and this is why we have these gates in there too. And so I made use of the historic path in a in a very clever way, I guess. And then I was also trying to do something this time around that I usually don't do that much, but I feel like checking out all these images as inspiration for the habitat, I felt like that this is something zoos do quite a bit, and this is just making all these planters work, you know. Having these planters helps a lot by, you know, just making sure that they have a bit of a separation to the animals, so that the animals cannot just get them all. And I don't know, it's a little thing, but I feel like this is a good little touch. And then also I wanted to create some nice areas for them to chill and relax. I do have to say though that the traversable area is a little bit of a bish in this one. I need to figure out a couple things that I'm not very happy with, and I tried to find a solution, but the solution was to delete too many pieces, and then it doesn't seem as lush anymore. So we're gonna have to decide whether we keep it this way or we go form over function to just make sure it all looks good, or if we try to make sure that we have function working kind of nice in here too. So I'm split on that one. I like to see the tiger go through this habitat in a nice manner, but then again I like to have my habitat look good, because we all have to admit I don't really look that much into what my animals are doing. I'm more building. I should definitely do so. I always feel like I am looking way too little at the animals, which always is a little bit of a weird one. I really would love to have that, but hey, who am I to say so? It's what it is what it is, okay? So there's no way around this. I just like building, okay? I like trains, okay? I like building, which totally was a blast in this one. It's also, I got so much footage, and I'm very sorry. Like, I wanted to finish that way earlier because I'm on holidays already. When you watch the video, I'm hopefully lying on the on the Spanish beach and relax and have a good time. So I'm recording this in advance, and I would have loved to do this way earlier. But yeah, I just got carried away building more and more in this wonderful build. So yeah, I just loved how it came together. Like, I think with doing it this way, having this storytelling approach of first of all going to build these old habitats and then think about how they could have used this in a more modern way, it just kind of opened some doors for me to think about how many plants would you have in there, and how could you incorporate some more plants that are not native to Central Europe. So some of the planters and stuff work this way, but then we also have some very separate plants that are in these bigger planters and could be maintained in a nicer way to give them some better heat or dung or whatever is needed to make them grow and thrive in our Central European region. I mean, that said, our summers get more hot, our winters get more warm and less cold. So tropical plants can survive in our region way better than they used to 20-ish years ago. So I mean, that's a good point, but still some plants wouldn't necessarily grow here without special care, and having these planters and ensuring that the tiger is not going to, rub their faces on it. These planters are always very helpful in order to maintain them plants in a better way. And then obviously, as always, I went in and, threw a couple of rocks in here, making sure everything looks nice and looks sleek, and, making sure that everything gets this very cool habitat vibe. And I am very pleased with the outcome. Speaking of pleased, I will stop the voiceover now, because I will guide you guys over into the real-time part, which this time around might be a little bit shorter because of me going on holidays, but I will show you the habitat in its final stage, because a couple of things have happened in between the time-lapse and the real build. So let's jump over to Real-Time Rudy, he's called. Alright, we're starting today with a look at our Dutch deli restaurant, and we're going to just walk towards the brand new Sumatran tiger habitat. I will say though that a couple of things are not finished, and for several reasons. First of all, as of speaking, I said that already in the time lapse, I am already on holiday, so I needed to kind of get some stuff done before. And this episode took way longer than I was expecting it to be, and so I saved some stuff for the next episode. Specifically, this area over here will be covered in something interesting, but we do have certain things to explore that you haven't seen in the time lapse. So first of all, this is our viewing gallery over here on the one hand side, and you can see going over the crest there, you can see our tigers on the ground. Look at this majestic vista over here. They have this very nice sunken down area, you know, and they can move around. Also, look at the colors. I'm really in love with the mod. It just really looks really good. Like, I have no complaints. It's a great mod, and the colors on the Sumatran tiger are just so good. I like this very deep orange, like almost reddish color, or brown, red, kind of, I don't know. Just really lovely stripe design, and I just like, really, I do love this version of the tiger. You know, and I'm totally fine for having like a mod like that. I think it's very much doable. It's not really changing anything of the game. Same mechanics. We already had a tiger. It's just like another variant. I think it's totally fine to have that. As they go for a swim, actually, let's go over here to the side and have a look at all the members that joined for this wonderful episode, because there were quite a few, and they have a bit of a different dedication this time around. Our little tiger stones over here, and we can actually have a little look. So first of all, it's Meryl Volzwinkel. We've got Luke, Infinity Toast, Nikki Nick, The Dragon 6, and Daniel Stevens. Welcome on in, everyone. Thanks for becoming a part of this crew, and also thanks for donating, so to say, for our wonderful tigers over here. The Sumatran tiger, our refurbished habitat. You are looking at the old polar bear habitat put into one side of the habitat, and now we actually take this little backstage area here, which sooner or later will not be usable anymore. But this space over here will be. So you do have a little bit of an interior look inside of the habitat. You've seen none of the animals are inside, but you could technically see them if they decide to go for a little chill here. I imagine that this is a one-side glass, so the animals have a bit more privacy than, for example, in comparison to this still existing old tiger area. But this, from being their very own area, or the only area they had, this has been, you know, kind of created as a little tunnel right now. It's nothing more than a traversable area for them by now, imagining that this has been in the past their very own and only space available. I feel like it's a good way to use that now. Bit of a reminder of how it's been in the past, but now it's just a tiny little space for traversing from one area to the other if they fancy doing so via the inside, and we can actually see both sides of the area already teased for the guests. So it's also playing a little bit with the view of the guests. So imagine you come from here, you have the chance to just have a little glimpse over here of the inside, seeing them chill over here if you want to. And then as you go further, it's gonna offer you a little glimpse into the other area that you want to maybe see from somewhere else. And so you will continue walking because you want to explore everything. And if you go over here, we do have a little reminder of the old area, like it's fallen over, tipped over a little sea lion. We will have a dedicated education board over here that's talking about this being this area of the sea lion, which I will do with the polar bear too, so just as an information. And then over here we do have a very special viewing angle, because this is where in the past the another viewing option was for the guests. I'm just going to quickly go in. So in the past there was also another viewing angle from over here inside of the cage that has now been changed into an actual guide that you can use to separate this area if you want to, and we have basically created a security glass in between so that the people can get very close with the animals if they want to get here, obviously, and you can still see the remainder of the old pathing that is connected to this very new area. So I think this is also kind of a nice way to play with how it used to be in the past. And then over here I did a little trick that I saw lately, being a little focus element. So with having these two stone elements that are very clever ways to hide the ugly edges anyways, but they also fulfill another job, and they are focus points, if you will, because people, like the way it is arranged over here, it guides your view inside of the habitat. It just, you don't notice that, but it does do it to you, because you're following these 3 steps, and then you automatically look into this direction, and this gives you the idea to look inside of the habitat, which I'm always a big fan of doing these little things, and people naturally just want to go here to stand here in the center, and this is like also here the tilt towards the inside gives you the view to this region, which is exactly what I want guests to look at. And then over here you have this nice little chill area. There's like a little bridge they can walk over. This is how they traverse down here in the area below. And then again, you do have a sunken area. I'm still liking the touch here of the old drainage. It's just kind of something I really like, because this gives you the idea that this has been something else in the past and just now refurbished into something new. I can really tell a couple of things have to be done still. To be more specific, I will do some custom holding boxes for the bamboo, and also putting some mulch and stuff here to make it more realistic. I haven't had the time to do this, but I will certainly do this, because the custom thing I'm doing is something I want to use in further parts of the zoo. Very classic, these little black... I'm not sure if it's plastic or something, but specifically around these plants, which usually spread like crazy, you want to maintain them somehow. You want to keep them in a certain area, and this is why you normally put these constraints around, and I will make them so that we can use them in further habitats. Anyhows, let's quickly jump into the free look camera so I can show you the whole habitat from above, because I am certainly very happy with how it turns out. It's certainly a very big one. You can now tell the dimensions a bit better. So this is the area which used to be the polar bear habitat. This is the tiny separate space that used to be the sea lion habitat. And this is the, this one over here is the habitat that used to be the tiger habitat. And this building is a completely new building, which in the past was used as a storage building for, or like a house for the polar bears, and the old house for the sea lions, which used to be somewhere over here, mainly with this foundation, is actually gone. So this is the idea how it was, you know. So I had the complete layout of how it was in the past in my mind, and I built the new habitat around. Also like to see here the little tiger passing through in the other habitat. Look at that. Oh, that looks so cool. I like that, how they just traverse through here and looking for a new way to go. Yeah, one last thing I want to show you is actually the traversable area, because it does come with a bit of a caveat, and you can see it's really not that nice. Specifically, this inner part over here is something I really need to fix. I want them to be able to go here, and honestly, I really don't know why they can't go there. I think the rocks are making some huge issues. Like, there's no way why they can't go here. It's so confusing to me why this is, like, what's the deal? Why can't they just traverse over here? I mean, we can just try to put this one in between. Maybe that does fix already. But sometimes this game just drives me nuts with the traversal area. It's like really, I mean, look what's happening here. This is now working. Especially this is something I wanted to achieve. And then he's doing, what the heck is going on with you? Like, why the hell are you doing these weird things? I don't get it. Let's see if this fixed anything. It didn't. See, it's so odd. Why? Whatever. I don't wanna be too frustrated about this. It is what it is, and I can't. Oh my god. Yeah, whatever. Can you just? Oh my god. Okay, so never mind. The tigers. I mean, I love the model. I love everything about this, but. I mean, look at this view. I'm really in awe with this. This looks also pretty damn nice. I'm just gonna take a screenshot here. But yeah, so this is the Sumatran Tiger Sanctuary, I want to call it even, because it frankly is. And you can definitely tell I also like how the path layout is becoming one. Look at the zoo. It's becoming a bit bigger now. This area certainly almost has the same size as the entire desert house, which is crazy to me. But that's just how it is. 3 habitats turned into 1, and now I wish that you guys give me some feedback. What do you like about this? Something that you want to see, and what could be the next animal? I'm not sure how much I can do for next week, because again, I'm on holiday, so maybe the episode will be postponed to a week later, but I'll keep you posted. Now, as always, a little reminder, if you guys want to become a part of this series, also find yourself on a dedication post, like one of these stones or one of these ones down here, like all across the zoo, you will find yourself then. For only 99 cents you can become a member, so you automatically become part of Venlo Zoo. And in any cases, if you want to support the channel, just subscribe to the channel. That's the easiest thing to support me if you haven't already. And I wish you a very nice time. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. I talk to you in the next one, and goodbye.